Hey, welcome to the first preliminary episode of what I'm currently calling JRPG Watch, a bi-monthly video series where I talk about my Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy branded watch collection or something like that. In all seriousness, I'm a massive JRPG fan first and a freelance game critic second, but my editors don't want to pay me to write about JRPGs often, so here I am doing it for free in video form. I think I'm going to tentatively split these videos into 3 parts. A short intro, a topical opinion piece on JRPGs or games inspired by JRPGs, and general news and review roundups. With that said, let's take a look at how the future of turn-based JRPGs specifically look as bright as Chrono Casting Luminaire. It feels like since the mid-2000s until recently, JRPGs in general were slowly abandoning pure turn-based battle systems in favor of fully action-based or hybrid systems. This is most notably seen in the genre's spiky-haired poster boy, Final Fantasy, which after the 13th not-so-Final Fantasy abandoned strictly selecting moves from a menu entirely. I'd even go so far as to classify Final Fantasy XVI as more of an action-adventure game than anything, but I'll save that argument for another day. Regardless, we've seen pretty much the entire Tales of catalog released during this time period, along with the lauded Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana and the Ni no Kuni games. From the Wii to the Switch, we've gotten 4 Xenoblade Chronicles. A couple dozen one-off titles such as Resonance of Fate and Scarlet Nexus showed a lot of creativity. Nier Automata, one of my favorite games of all time, might fit into this action-based JRPG category too, if you squint a little. And sure, much like how war never changes in the world of Fallout, mainline Pokemon games never changed from their turn-based roots. And Atlus has kept the turn-based torch burning bright with Persona and the Shin Megami Tensei series, though they were a bit more niche until Persona 5. In fact, I think it was around Persona 5's release in 2017 that I noticed more turn-based JRPGs coming out. The year after saw Octopath Traveler and the long-awaited Dragon Quest XI. 2019 was pretty light for the genre, but Fire Emblem Three Houses stood out. It was technically turn-based, right? From then on, it seemed about a 50-50 whether a JRPG would be turn-based or not. Final Fantasy VII Remake going up against Yakuza Like a Dragon in 2020. Tales of Arise and Shin Megami Tensei 5 jostling for position in 2021. But then 2022 happened with the likes of Live Alive and Tactics Ogre Reborn teaming up with Pokemon Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet to make it one of the better years for turn-based battles, depending on how much you enjoy Pokemon. Triangle Strategy and Chained Echoes were also released that year. Ignoring Final Fantasy XVI, turn-based battles also flooded 2023 with Fire Emblem Engage, Octopath Traveler 2, Sea of Stars, Super Mario RPG Remake, and Dragon Quest Monsters The Dark Prince. You can kind of see a trend here, a trend that's continued on into 2024 with Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Persona 3 Reload, Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, Saga Emerald Beyond, and Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, going up against the likes of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Visions of Mana. And yeah, I'm sure I missed like a dozen examples. So am I crazy for thinking that if it wasn't for the recent Final Fantasies, the action-based JRPG would look almost as extinct as the Golden Sun games? Once upon a time it looked like turn-based JRPGs would die off too, but right now the future for them has never looked more promising. Starting with Metaphor ReFantazio. I haven't been more excited for a game than this one in a minute. An unrepentantly stylish JRPG from Persona series director Katsura Hashino? Yes please. The same slick menus from Persona are here, which make turn-based bouts all the more engaging. After playing Persona 5, I sorely missed them in every JRPG I played afterward. Previews for ReFantazio have been filled with nothing but praise. The most recent from Gamescom assuaged the one concern I had, that it would be too much like Persona or SMT, as much as I love both. I can ramble on about how ReFantazio's archetype system is more akin to character classes than some in Personas, and that despite there being a social element and a calendar moving the story along, it looks far more centered on quests than the day-to-day life of high school students. But I'm personally more excited for the bizarre medieval fantasy setting. I love JRPGs because they're set in these whimsical worlds that don't often make a lot of sense but are far more interesting for it nevertheless. As much as I love them, the Persona games are set in Japan, where I live, and worked in high schools before. You can see why I haven't picked up Persona 3 Reload yet. ReFantazio, on the other hand, takes place in a super racist kingdom with magic and stuff. And last I checked, elves aren't hurling slurs at cat-eared people outside. What hooked me was learning that the most dangerous and grotesque foes found in this land are called humans, and the protagonist carries around a fantasy novel that takes place in a realm suspiciously like our own real world. That's the kind of premise that gets me absolutely giddy to play this fresh turn-based JRPG when it releases next month. Which is a problem because finishing what's likely a 100+ hour-long adventure before Mario & Luigi Brothership releases on November 7th, another turn-based JRPG and the biggest Switch game this holiday season, will be a challenge as steep as a super boss from Final Fantasy X. And I'll definitely have no chance of finishing both before Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake releases a week later. But it's not just the immediate releases that have me excited about where turn-based JRPGs are headed. Dragon Quest XII is out there somewhere after all, and the Suikoden 1 and 2 remaster is scheduled for March 2025. French-developed but JRPG-inspired Clair Obscur Expedition 33 has me intrigued too. That Summer Games Fest reveal was what I imagined Final Fantasy games might look like a couple console generations ago. It has a similarly slick turn-based style to ReFantazio, and perhaps more importantly, Jennifer English, the voice behind my beloved Shadowheart from Baldur's Gate 3, is voicing one of the main characters. Anyway, I still appreciate a good action-heavy JRPG. I'm currently chipping away at Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade before getting on board Rebirth a little late. Though with the fall lineup before us, I might have to shelve it for all these purely turn-based alternatives for a while longer. All said, I'll always have a preference for turn-based battles. Thus, I'm happy to see them making a triumphant return. How about you? Which do you prefer? Action-heavy, turn-based, or a hybrid of the two? So what else is happening in the world of JRPGs? Visions of Mana released on August 29th and is sitting at a healthy 77 critic average over at OpenCritic. Robert Ramsey from Push Square gave it a 7 out of 10, stating, "If you look beyond the game's monotonous storytelling and tragically bland characters, the essence of an old-school excursion is here, in the exploration of wonderful environments and in battles against burly boss monsters." That certainly sounds like a Mana game. Imran Khan over at GameSpot was much more harsh, scoring it a 5 out of 10 and ripping it in his conclusion, writing, "There's a game here for someone willing to lower their standards enough, but trust me when I say there are hundreds of better RPGs for you to spend your time on. You do not need to waste it searching for a few nuggets buried here." Other than playing through the demo, I haven't had the chance to pick this up myself yet, but I was happy to see the Mana series getting an all-new entry rather than a remake, despite some middling reviews. We might not get one for a while as Ooka Studios, the developer behind Visions of Mana, is closing because reportedly its parent company NetEase is shifting away from Japan-focused development. The silver lining here, it seems, is Square Enix still owns the rights to the Mana franchise, so given the moderate critical success of Visions of Mana, we might get another iteration someday. On a less depressing note, the August 27th Nintendo Indie World and Partner Showcase revealed a horde of JRPGs alongside a handful of release dates. Sea of Stars is getting some free DLC in the throes of the Watchmaker next spring. I was a huge fan of Sea of Stars, giving it a 9 out of 10 over at PC Games N, so you best believe I'm excited for this. For those that like farming in their JRPGs, Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma is coming next spring as well. I've always wanted to dabble into the Atelier series, and I might be able to with Atelier Yumiya in early 2025. Perhaps the most surprising, Nintendo threw in a brief clip for a remake of The Legends of Heroes Trials in the Sky. If you only watched the English version of this Nintendo Direct, you might have missed it, but the Japanese version had a bit longer of a trailer that definitely channels some nostalgia. I've also always wanted to get into the Trials series, but it's difficult to go back and play through like 12 50+ hour games. I did play this one, however, and I hope they follow up with a remake of the sequel, as I've heard nothing but praise for all of them. And that's about it for this first week of JRPG Watch. Let me know if you agree that JRPGs are straying back towards their turn-based roots or not. And if I missed some important news, also let me know in the comments below. This video series is a work in progress, so I hope to improve as I put out a video for you on the first and third Friday of each month. So consider liking and subscribing if you're a big fan of JRPGs like me. Please and thank you.